Today, we're going to build something. Think of it as a personal toolkit, a lexicon for when you need to deal with hard facts. We're going to arm you with 20 really precise words for evidence, verification, and the kind of sharp thinking that cuts through the noise. So let's get into it. You know how it is. We are swimming in an ocean of information, opinions, and, well, facts. So the real challenge is, how do you build an argument that's actually rock solid? How do you take a hunch and turn it into something that can really stand up to scrutiny? Well, it all starts with having the right words. And this isn't just about sounding smart when you talk to other people. Having the right word is the #1 tool for thinking clearly yourself. It lets you grab onto a concept, really understand it, and then use it. So for this explainer, I want you to imagine you're an investigator. We're not just learning a list of vocabulary words here. We are assembling a specialized toolkit for uncovering the truth. And each word is like a specific instrument designed for a very specific job. Okay, so every investigation has to start somewhere, right? It starts with gathering clues. But the thing is, evidence rarely just shows up in one neat, tidy package. So let's look at the words that help us describe how we collect and organize the raw material for our arguments. I really love this first word because it so perfectly captures how we actually build understanding. It's hardly ever a sudden eureka moment. It's an accretion, a slow, steady layering of facts, one on top of the other, until a clear picture starts to emerge from the haze. And this shows you exactly how it works. You start with just one initial finding. Then some new data comes along that seems to support it. And finally, a completely separate report comes in that corroborates what you're seeing. That is the power of accretion. Your case just gets stronger and stronger with every single layer. Of course, sometimes gathering evidence is a much more deliberate process. We can look at the aggregate, which is just combining data from lots of different studies to see a bigger trend. Or you could consult an anthology, a collection of expert articles to get a bunch of different perspectives on a single topic. Now, as we're gathering all this information, our brains naturally start to make connections. One thing we do is ascribe a quality to something. You can just think of it as putting a label on it. We might ascribe wisdom to an ancient philosopher or courage to a heroic act. Now, here's a word that sounds very similar, but the difference is crucial. It's the word attribute. This isn't just about labeling a quality, it's about identifying a cause. We attribute the team's championship win to their intense training regimen. So let's really nail down this distinction because it's a powerful one. To ascribe is usually about assigning a quality, and that can be pretty subjective. But to attribute is to pinpoint a cause, an origin. It's aiming for a much more direct causal link. It's a subtle difference in language, but it makes your argument so much stronger. Okay, so we've gathered a nice pile of clues. Now what? What kind of skills does a good investigator actually need to make sense of it all? What qualities do they have to have? First of all, you need to be adept. This just means you're really skilled, really proficient at what you do, whether that's spotting patterns in a spreadsheet or knowing just the right question to ask. Next, you want to be adroit. This brings in a sense of cleverness, of dexterity. It's about being skillful and how you handle information and navigate your way through complex situations. And finally, you have to be mentally agile. Evidence isn't static, right? New facts come out. An agile thinker can pivot, adapt their thinking, and reassess things on the fly without getting stubbornly stuck on an old idea. But listen, it's not all about being quick and clever. In fact, maybe the most important skill is to be assiduous. This is the complete opposite of flashy. This means showing incredible care, digging deep into the details, and just persevering when the work gets tedious. It's that patient, diligent grind that really uncovers the truth. So, our evidence is collected, our skills are sharp. Now we get to the core of the whole investigation, the analysis. This is where we sit down and really examine what we found. The very first job of any analyst is to ascertain the facts. What do we know for certain? This is all about building a solid foundation. Before you can interpret anything, before you can build a theory, you have to first ascertain what is verifiably, undeniably true. Next, let's draw a line between assess and appraise. You might assess the general quality of an article you read online, but to appraise something, that implies a more formal, expert judgment. An expert would appraise the value of a rare painting. One is a general evaluation, the other is a formal judgment of worth. And here are 3 awesome words to describe a sharp analytical mind:
First, you have Acumen. That's the ability to make good judgments and make them quickly. Then you're Acute, meaning you have a really perceptive understanding. You notice details others miss. And finally, you're Astute, which is the ability to take all that information and use it to accurately figure out what's really going on.
Ultimately, good analysis is a cerebral activity. It's about letting your intellect, your logic, and your reason lead the way, instead of just relying on a gut feeling. It is a disciplined process of thinking through the evidence. And here we are, the final stage. You've gathered the evidence, you've applied your skills, you've analyzed the facts. Now it's time to present your findings, and you've got to do it with clarity and precision. So your conclusion needs to be sharp. You might use an Apposite example. That's one that is perfectly fitting. You might reference an archetypical case to show a classic typical example of what you're talking about. And you want your summary to be antiseptic, meaning clean, clinical, and totally free from your own bias. And you do all this because you have a vocation for the truth, a deep, driving purpose to find clarity. And there you have it. Look at what we've done. We didn't just learn a list of words. We built a complete investigative toolkit. You now have words for gathering evidence, words to describe the skills you need, words for the analysis itself, and finally, words for presenting your findings with absolute clarity. This vocabulary is so much more than just a list. It's a set of instruments that will help you think more clearly. So really, the only question left is this. Now that you have these tools at your disposal, what truth will you uncover?